Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our 30 on Thursday series. My name is Claire Prosser with Protiviti, and today our topic is Invoice Processing and SharePoint with InfoActivate Scan application. Before we get going, just a couple of pieces of housekeeping. If you're joining us for the first time, our 30 on Thursday series is a bi-weekly 30-minute SharePoint webinar series where we talk about all things SharePoint. Our next webinar is going to be on June 26th, that's 2 weeks today, and we will be doing an Introduction to SharePoint 2013 search. There is the full schedule on our website. We do have some training coming up. I believe the security webinar and the application development webinar are free webinars, so if that catches your interest, or if you'd like some more in-depth training, there is a full schedule on our website, sharepoint.protiviti.com/training. So let's come back to today's session. It is being recorded, and you can view our past recordings on our website. If you have any questions as we go along, please use the question panel on the right-hand side of your screen. So today I'd like to introduce Mike Paternoster from Kodak Alaris. Mike is going to be chatting with us on invoice processing and SharePoint with InfoActivate Scan application. So let's get started. Welcome, Mike.
Hi, Claire. Hello, everybody.
Mike, I shall make you the presenter.
Okay.
And it's all yours.
All right, great. I'm just going to minimize this. Oh, that doesn't come to the front, huh? You can see the screen okay, Claire?
I can see it, yes. The big Kodak Alaris screen.
Great. I'm just trying to move. Oh, here we go. There we go. Okay, hello again, everybody. My name is Mike Paternoster with Kodak Alaris. We're going to do a demo of the Kodak InfoActivate solution software, and I just wanted to show you a couple slides real quick. The full name of the software, we refer to it sometimes as KIAS, K-I-A-S, but it's Kodak InfoActivate solution. And there's just a couple benefits I want to review before we go into the demo. And one is there's a lot of talk about governance within SharePoint, and one of the key things with InfoActivate relating or regarding governance is that the InfoActivate software locks down your scanner settings and the information pertaining, and that's going to be entered into your SharePoint library columns, and you're going to see all this in a demo in about 2 minutes or so. So that's one of the nice features of it, where you can create job setups or / profiles for each user in each department, so on and so forth. Oh, back to that. The library, when we talk about locks down library settings, the columns that are made in SharePoint, so when they're made, sometimes they need to have required information added upon importing or scanning documents, or sometimes it's not required, but that's all gets encompassed in each Kodak InfoActivate job setup. And I'm going to go over the job setup as well after I show you how the software works. Next is automation. Some of the features that are built in to Kodak InfoActivate software include features that allow you to move, delete files, copy files, send files to SharePoint document sets, send them to any other library on the in the SharePoint farm. You can also send to any file share on your network. So sometimes these things are achieved with SharePoint workflows. So one of the things with InfoActivate software is that we incorporate some of these features with our job setup profiles to automate the process a little more when you import and scan your documents. So I say import or scan your documents because InfoActivate can hook directly up to a scanner, or if your document that you want to bring in to SharePoint and you want to apply some of these automated features and governance and so forth, if it's already digitized, you can just browse to an already digitized file and import it in as well. So when I refer to importing and scanning documents, that's what I mean. There's two ways to get the documents in there, or the files. And our next is integration. We can deliver these documents that we import or scan to other ECM systems at the same time, which makes it compatible to pretty much all third-party workflows. The demo we're going to do today is I'm delivering a file to a file share that's doing a SQL database lookup to populate some of my SharePoint columns. Very simple to do. So that system could be, it's obviously our system, Kodak Alaris, but that system could be any other system that that somebody might be using. So that being said, I'm going to just minimize this, and I have a browser open up over here. The name of this company that InfoActivate software is running on is called Adventure Trips, LLC. And there's various subsites on here. Kodak InfoActivate is loaded on this. This is our home page over here. And I have an invoice library over here. And I have that page opened just to save a little time displaying. I have it opened over here. This is what the invoice library looks like. We have a few invoices loaded in here already. So when you go to the home page of Adventure Trips, to bring something into that invoice library, you can see on this top pull-down bar over here, we have Kodak InfoActivate. There's 4 tabs to choose from. The configuration tab is where we actually make our job setup, and I like to show you that after I actually import something. So you can see how that job setup is created. The scan and import feature is where the user, the knowledge worker, will go to see what jobs are set up. So somebody that's importing invoices will see a certain selection of job setups, and somebody that's, say, in another department, say for travel expense reports or something like that in the accounting department, they would see another set of job setups. We have an index queue over here so that when you scan and or import your documents, you can have the scanner operator user just scan and import the documents all day long or forever, however long, and then the metadata could be added later on, and we can have it go to an index queue. So that's a separate queue. And then we have a job status feature over here, or option that you can select so you can see what's going on the site with each particular job. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Scan and Import, and that brings up this page over here. These are the job profiles that I was speaking about. This particular job, this at the home page level over here, has 2 job setups, Adventure Trip Invoices and then Adventure Trips Database Lookup, DB Lookup. The Invoices just takes the file and it's going to either scan or import directly into the library. The Database Lookup is going to populate all these fields automatically for us over here, because the company ID, say for this particular company, Scarpa, is always going to be the same: the city, the state, the description, the sales rep, and in this case, doing business since. So we have these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 or so index fields being populated automatically. So what I'm going to do is, here is our source. We can have file import, or we have scanner. I have a Kodak scanner i2000 set up over here. So if you choose to go to scanner, you can select this. If you go to file import, you can just import a file. So I'm going to hit the scanner, and I'm going to load my scanner with an invoice. And you should hear this in the background. So the user will browse to this site, select scan and import, and again, they're going to see these. In this case, they're just going to see these 2 job setups, and they're going to click on this job tile over here. It's going to look for the scanner, see that there's an invoice in there, and it's going to do a scan. So the first level that we see is this right here. And there's some basic controls that we see up here where at this point you can rotate. We can also set the job setup for auto rotation. So if this thing was scanned in sideways or upside down, it would automatically come in right side up. We can remove, we have a hole fill removal for documents that are scanned in and have holes in them. So at this point we can scan more pages in. If we wanted to add to this, we can rotate as I just did, delete it. If there are multiple documents, we can split the document at this point. I can hold the document at this point. If I scan this in and I'm responsible for adding index information and say at this point I'm not sure what that is for whatever reason or something changed, I can just say I'm going to put this on hold and it'll automatically go to a hold queue, and I can let that document go further on in the production process and also have it on hold over here, and I can revisit later on. So the first stage is we scan. I can zoom in and pan around and examine this document. And then when I'm ready to index it, I just hit index. And in my invoice library, again, these are all my SharePoint columns in here. And you can see that when we hit index, all these columns appear on the side over here. This invoice workflow that we have set up with SharePoint and InfoActivate, let me just move this over a little bit so you can see. I don't know why it's like that. This little red asterisk next to the company name, this is the pull-down menu. So Adventure Trips right now is doing business with these 6 companies, and these are all outdoor companies. That has a red asterisk next to it because that's a required field. In order for this database lookup to be achieved properly, it needs to key in off of something. So whatever invoice we're scanning in, the operator is simply going to hit K2 Sports in this case, because there's my K2 Sports over there. We're not going to be concerned with the title. The only thing that we're going to enter in this demo is the invoice number and the invoice amount, because that invoice number is always going to be different in this case, and the amount most likely is going to be different as well. So this is a nice demo because it shows you that even if we weren't doing a database lookup to populate all these other fields down here, you can just do a manual enter of the metadata at this point. And the way you can do that is this. If I click on invoice, I can come over here. I can right click. I just right clicked on the screen, by the way. So if I right click and click OCR, I can come over here to the invoice, and I can just click. I just clicked on that 0 over there, and I think I had this invoice selected. Maybe I didn't. So if I just clicked on the 0 over there, and it enters it in. So I can just go throughout this document and just click anywhere and just have it the information populated in there. Another way is I'm going to right click and pan, and I'm just going to move up to the total amount. If I wanted to enlarge it, I can obviously see it at this point, but just to kind of use some of these tools, I'll scroll around over here. I can go back to OCR, and I can also draw a marquee area around there. Or I'm just going to delete that, and I'm just going to click on that too, and it pops in that way. So those are the 2 ways that you can go throughout the document and fill in your metadata fields. So in this case, I'm just going to fill in the invoice number, the amount, and the company name, and I'm going to hit save. I'm not going to worry about these other fields. Again, I can go throughout this whole document and fill out the state, the sales rep. The company ID is not on this invoice, but it is in the database lookup table that we created, or that I created in the SQL database, because the K2 Sports has a unique company ID as it pertains to Adventure Trips. I'm going to click on my invoice tab over here, and I'm just going to do a refresh. I can see, or we all can see, that there's a few invoices in here already. I'm going to hit refresh, and I'm going to let it refresh. So here's my job my documents, and we're probably, a lot of people may or may not be familiar with this this title over here, but when you see a scan and a bazillion numbers like that after it, that's just SharePoint giving it a unique document identifier. I'm not too concerned with that right now. I can see that I have a K2 Sport company name underneath this column over here, invoice in there. The invoice number is 0419, just like we entered. There's the amounts. We have a created column over here. This was created a few seconds ago, obviously. And what's going to happen is, after a minute or so of processing, you know that I have another view over here that I can switch to. I want to show you something. So you can see these three are completed. This one over here is in progress. So if you wanted to monitor the progress of this, which the user may or may not, but the administrator might want to look into this and see if something is in progress or if it's completed. What's going to happen is it's going to pause for a minute. I think as soon as I clicked on it, it started processing, but this was put in at 1:45 over here Eastern Time with the date. My user ID is a system account, but it pauses for a minute. That's a default SharePoint workflow. The pausing was completed about a minute later, even though it says 1:45, 1:47, that's 2 minutes. You know, without the seconds, it's really a minute or so later. This CAM processing status is our Kodak InfoActivate software chewing on this document and sending it over and doing a database lookup based on that company ID. It's waiting to complete that. If I do another refresh, it should say completed or processed, or maybe it's still waiting, you know, I don't know. So it was waiting at 1:47, and within that minute time frame, it looks like it's completed. So the processing of that document is ended in a status processed, which is good to know. So if I come back up to invoices, I could have just went to back or not. I'm going to switch back to my production view. And I can see here's our K2 Sports. So that name scan with all the numbers went away. And now it's called K2 Sports. And that 134737 is the 24-hour time, which I'll show you how we came about this name over here. My file name formula for the Kodak InfoActivate solution job setup or profile is set for the company name, which is K2 Sports, and then an underscore and the 24-hour time. So if I want to scan in another K2 Sport invoice as a test or whatever for production purposes, I would always have a different name. Even if I scan these in back-to-back, the time would be 1348 or whatever, something like that. At this point, we populated the invoice number. Excuse me. We populated the company name and the amount, 2175. But you can see this information here in just a matter of minutes populated itself automatically. We have the company ID, the city and state, Seattle, Washington. The description for this company, K2 Sports, is skis. There's our sales rep, and it's been doing business since 2003. So that's just our metadata columns that we decided to put in there. We can click on here and get a preview, and this preview obviously looks just like the scan. So you can preview the document, and then we can go back. So that's how we can import our invoices and have the metadata columns automatically filled out. If we go to our configuration page over here, I had that opened over here. Here we go. The configuration page for InfoActivate Solutions shows our two job setups or our two job profiles that we saw over here. We have AT invoices database lookup. So these are the two over here. AT invoices over here, I'm only using, these are all our features that we can use over here. All I'm using for this is file format. So I'm importing the document and I'm converting it to a searchable PDF. and my file name is going to be the company name with the 24-hour time, the underscore, and we all just saw that with the K2 Sports at the 1347. And inside the InfoActivate configuration setup, you can see that it has all these columns that we created in SharePoint. The invoice number. If I wanted to change the name of this to company name, invoice number, I can do that. I can put in an underscore, and I can also put in the sales rep. Where's that guy? Oh, here we go, sales rep. So now the name, whoops, I automatically or accidentally clicked on that. So now the final name would be the company name, K2 Sports, the invoice number, and the sales rep. In this case, his name is Roger Kirk. So that's where we get our file name formula from. What I like to do is just run down these features real quick. I'm not going to go into every single one. I mean, you know, we can be here for an hour going over that. But basically, this is just a job name. If we select input, this is the library that it's going to. Also, when we get down to output, this is sometimes if we have something in the output field over here, this library just becomes a temporary processing library, because I might want to select a library over here for InfoActivate to process the files in, but then I might want to send this off to a file share and move it from here, or delete it, or copy it someplace. Content type over here, we're just using a default document content type, but if we did have a custom content type over here for our invoices, we can select that for this job setup. We can take off enable editing and enable indexing so that your scanner operator can just import these files, and all the editing and indexing will be done later on. This is the scanner. Well, you don't see it in there right now, but you can add your scanners into this column over here, and this will identify all the known scanners that the InfoActivate will work with. And if there is no scanner found, if it's not a Kodak scanner, it will use these general settings. And I have this selected for file import. That is when we come over here and we go to file import, you can still see both those jobs. If I uncheck that, you would only see that in one of those fields. And another nice feature with the InfoActivate is you can enable this for, we have a mobile app that you can download on your phone, and you can use your mobile app to send files right into InfoActivate, into a library, and you can email a file directly into InfoActivate. And this job setup, this particular one, AT Invoices 3, will be this AT Invoices job setup. If I flip over to database lookup, this doesn't have email enabled for it, but if it did, this will be the setup for that. So a lot of people like this feature because they can just email the invoices. We use this internally at Kodak up at Rochester, New York, by the way, for our purchase orders in our contract department. They have the contracts and invoices automatically come in as an email, and we just email them right to the job setup, and they get deposited right into the SharePoint library. So if I move on, just go back to my invoices over here. This is our image processing feature. For this demo, I didn't have any of these things set, but here's where you can rotate, fill holes, detect and straighten. You can create new documents with separator sheets, or with this slide rule over here for separator sheets that have a little bit of content on them. You can define how much for it to make a new document, things like that. We have a barcode capability over here, and these are all our barcode settings, and you can see that again there's all our SharePoint columns that are being incorporated in there, so we can choose that, and those are all our barcode settings. This is our index queue over here. If we select this, our files are going to go into a whole separate queue, and all that indexing and metadata creations will be done by either another operator in the separate indexing queue, and our file format, which we saw before, and our file naming. This particular one has nothing set in the output. However, the Adventure Trips Invoices database lookup that we used has this populated, and you can see what it's doing is it's going to a file system. This is a share where my SQL server is set up, and it's automatically going into this what I'm going to call auto import. It's a hot folder, so to speak, or a watch folder, a lot of different terms for that. And when the file goes in there, it automatically, that folder is triggered with our software to look at the SQL database according to the company name and pull in all that information automatically that we want, such as the sales rep, company ID, etc., etc. And here is where we can select copy the file after it comes out of this invoice library. We can copy it, or we can move it to over here so that it automatically deletes the file from there, and then it gets redeposited back in this particular case, with the new name. These features up here allow you to save the job. I can do a save as and call this Mike's new job. And if I hit OK to that, I just created a new job. Now I have 3 jobs over here. I didn't make any changes, but I just wanted to show you how we can do a save as. This icon over here allows you to make a new job. This allows you to delete one. These 2 icons over here are nice because it allows you to do a granular backup of your jobs that you've made. So I can either import one or I can export this whole job. Now this isn't really that complicated right here, but I can export this and I can bring it into another InfoActivate SharePoint site, or a whole nother farm, or anywhere, or like I said, just use it as a granular backup just to keep track of your jobs. One other thing I didn't mention about the output over here is, in this case, we're outputting to a file system, and this is just a file share, and this is a folder. We have 2 other features over here. We can output to another library. And again, I can put in my site URL. In this case, this is my site URL up here. I'm hoping you can see that top URL bar. But if this was a different site collection within my SharePoint form, I can select that in here, put in the library name. I can type in a destination folder. So if I put in K2 Sports, and this was a K2 Sports invoice job, it would make a new folder in that particular library and import or save all those documents in the K2 Sports folder. The other feature that we have in here in the output is, and this is something new over the last few months, the last release of InfoActivate 2.1, is we can output to a document set. And you simply can identify the content type. Again, you can do a copy or a move when it goes into that document set, and that's going to be from that library that you identify up here. And that's similar to what we talked about in the beginning, whereas instead of creating, say, a SharePoint standard workflow, not that it would be that complex to make a workflow to copy or move a file out of a library and delete it every 8 hours or every 4 hours or whatever you want to do. It's not that it's that hard, but we just incorporated that in the InfoActivate job setup or / profile just to make it a little bit more automated and streamlined for the user so that you don't have to do that. So those are the 3 things that you can output to: a file system, document set, or a library. If you wanted to at all, like I said, this feature over here, or AT Invoices, just goes right into that library. AT Invoices database lookup goes to here. So since I created this new job over here, Mike's new job, if I come back over to here and do a refresh, I should see 3 job tiles in here. Here we go. It's doing a little refresh down here. It's going to wait for a second or 2. And I should see 3 jobs. And I just want to show you one more thing, and then we can open it up for some questions. And this is why I had those tabs opened up earlier. But basically, there's Mike's new job, and that one I believe is set for file import as well. So you can see all 3 of your jobs. So one other thing I wanted to show you real quick is that this is the home page of Adventure Trips LLC. So I go into Kodak InfoActivate, I go into Scan and Import, boom, I see my 3 jobs over there. But if I go to one of my subsites, say for instance this Italy subsite, this will just take a second to display. This is the home page for Italy. So this is a subsite of Adventure Trips, and this is the Italy Adventure Trip Adventure Trips offers. But you can see there's a pull-down menu for Kodak InfoActivate over here as well. So the user that's going to import, say, Italy, there's maps over here, and there's trip itineraries, and there's Italy fun facts. And it's like that for each sub-site for Adventure Trips LLC. So since I'm on this Italy sub-site, if I go to Kodak InfoActivate, you still see these 4 features, just like you did on the home page, and you'll see these same features on the other sub-sites as well. But if I go to scan and import, it's just going to take about 20 seconds or so to display. This is going to be the same as the scan and import page over here on the home site, but because I'm on the Italy site, I just want to illustrate and reinforce the fact that you're only going to see the job setups for Italy. So when the user that's responsible in this case to import Italy fun facts, Italy maps, and Italy trip itineraries, they're only going to see this. They're not going to see Adventure Trips invoices. They're not going to see Adventure Trip invoices database lookup. So whatever department is responsible or has access to whatever sub-site, you can see how you can lock users out from seeing various job setups with InfoActivate in the SharePoint farm. So, and this is the Italy trip itinerary library. This particular library is using folders. So again, that's just something else I wanted to show you, so how you can lock down your settings so not everybody sees all your job setups. So Claire, yes, if anyone has any questions, perhaps we can open it up for questions after that demo.
Thanks, Mike. That was great. I don't see any questions coming in, but I did have one, if I may.
Sure.
So can you then route those for approvals? Do you use sort of an in-text for that, or is there sort of an approval process then built in for once you've scanned in an invoice?
We can. Yeah, that's a great question. There's no Nintex workflow on that. However, if I go to my Italy sub-site, there is a workflow set for Italy trip itineraries, and that workflow looks like this. And this workflow can very easily be applied to the Invoice library. And this is the Nintex workflow that I have set on this library. And this is what it looks like. We have our first action, not to go into crazy details about this, but we have a loop over here where it waits for Kodak InfoActivate to finish. Should be an S on there, by the way. So when that's finished processing, it'll then send it for an approval request. So anybody that imports an Italy trip itinerary for an upcoming trip, well, the manager is going to get a approval request over here. In this case, it's the initiator. So whoever initiates that, which is me, I'm going to get an email, and I'm going to have a option to reject that trip itinerary, approve it, or I'm going to say I'm going to need more information. And then the next process is in the workflow, it's going to send a notification to me and the user saying that I approve, rejected, or need more information. It's going to set a field value of approve, rejected, or need more info. And then it's going to copy it to a SharePoint folder, which is the approved folder that I just showed you in that library, rejected, or need more info. And I'm going to then pause for a minute and delete it. So yeah, you know what, Claire, I can, we can very easily change this around, and this same Nintex workflow can be applied to our invoice library. In this case, however, it's not. It's with the trip itineraries. So the answer to that question is yes, we certainly can apply something to there. And I've noticed when I worked with people, Nintex architects at various sites, where they would typically make a Nintex workflow. Well, after seeing, for basic things now, not everything. I don't want to get the impression that InfoActivate can take the place of Nintex. It can't. But on more than a couple occasions, I've had Nintex architects telling me, oh, hey, wow, that's pretty cool. So you can do that in InfoActivate solution. I don't have to make a workflow for that. And I'm like, yeah, of course, you can move it or you can delete it. So little things like that. But yeah, something a little bit more involved like this, where you want to send an email. Yeah, you would just identify that with a Nintex workflow.
That's great. Well, Mike, thank you so much for taking the time to share this information with us today. We really appreciate it. Thanks everyone for joining us. We will see everyone back here in 2 weeks for the introduction to Search 2013. Thanks everybody.
Okay, thanks, Claire. Have a good day, everybody.